can women date down? And when I say date down, as in, could you date a guy who you feel wasn't as ambitious as you, wasn't as driven as you? Maybe, maybe he wasn't, in the same equal position that you are in life in terms of what you've built for yourself, the position you're in. Do you feel like, could you date down? Do you think women could date down?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I feel like, no, in the sense of like overall drive. Like, I'm naturally attracted to people that are driven. I feel like my whole family's like that, men and women alike. And so for me, it's not, I think what I go after, like as being an actress, is super hyper specific, and it can seem like it's really driven, because it is.
Yeah, 100%.
But someone could be just as passionate about like plants, and like as long as they're like driven towards that thing, that's fine. Like, I actually don't care what the topic is.
Okay, cool.
So in that aspect, yeah, no. But in other aspects, as far as like where I am in life, I've never had like an issue with like, okay, I can't say never. Sorry, let me rewind. I don't have an issue with a man that's not like monetarily like where I'd want them to be or anything like that, like financially steady in that way. As long as there's like a plan and there's a dream and there's like action being taken on that, So for me, in that sense, I don't necessarily consider it even dating down. I would say it's a not yet thing, but if I can see it in you and you can see it in yourself and you're working towards that, I don't mind like that part of like the building together aspect of life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like he doesn't have to be there now, but he has to get there later.
Yeah.
And is that like a specific level in your head, or is it more in comparison to where you are?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't say ultimately it's a comparison to where I am. I expect myself to do great things and to be very far, and at the end of the day, if like my man doesn't like make as much money as I do, that's not something that bothers me as much. To be fair, I would still let him do the finances. Like, I'm not so yeah, like that's not necessarily something that bothers me. Do I prefer for the man to like lead in that? Absolutely.
Sure.
I think my biggest thing is tied to, I don't want to be limited in life. And so any type of like financial resources that we can like build the dream of like working the things and doing the things that we want to do, but not the rest. It's like, it comes down to lifestyle. Ultimately, it's not necessarily about a certain amount of money, but it does come down to lifestyle. Like, I think some people have resources in terms of they can just travel more because they live in this place.
Sure.
That's different than like being in the States and you have a little bit more money, but you can't travel as far because your money doesn't stretch.
Doesn't go that far, yeah.
So I think it depends in that aspect for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So would you ever, for example, let's say, as and when, like you build this amazing, more success for yourself and you have a level of financial abundance, and you meet a guy and he's not in the same lifestyle level as you. Like, he's decent, he's stable, but he's not in the abundance that you are, right? And that if you were going to join lives together, you probably would take on more of the financial burden because you're just in a much better position, right? Is that something you would consider?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, nice. And also I will say this. I like high quality things, so like I do, and I probably my person would probably like those things too, to be fair. But when it comes to like, I don't see money, I guess, the same way that I feel like a lot of people see money. Like, I do see it as a resource and being able to live like the life that I want to live, but I don't value it more than like love and like relationship and compatibility and all of these other things. So yes, I would love it to be high, but if I'm making millions and millions of dollars and you making a mil,
I mean, he's still making a mil. He's still top 1%. Okay, let me give you this hypothetical. You're making 5 million a year.
Okay.
He's making 60K. So he's not making.
Okay, that's different.
Is it different?
Yeah, that's different.
Because he's not making bad money. He's just not making incredible money like you.
Okay, maybe. Okay, that's different. If I'm making 5 mil a year, you could be making 200,000 minimum. If I'm I'm making 5 mil a year, I'm not making 5 mil a year.
Yeah.
But 200. But also, like, if you have a vision and you have a dream, and I'm your woman, and I've also
have a
made
dream.
those, and I've also made those millions after, then I'm gonna make sure you making more money than that. You know what I mean? It's not like,
Oh, you'd
like
help
60, yeah, 100%. Like, what are we investing in? Like, what is the dream? What is the vision? Like, how can we build towards that?
So if he was like, oh, I've got a business and I need 2 million investment from you, you'd invest?
If that's my husband, do we talking about dating?
No, this is you're in a relationship.
I'm in a relationship. It just depends. Like, what's the ROI? Like, like, does it make sense?
What am I getting back later, fool? Tell me what I'm
But
getting.
like, no, but if I really do, if I really, if I
Yeah.
really see it, I think that there are certain things that would have to come with a ring, though. Like, we're in a relationship, but like there's certain risks that would come with that, right?
I fully
But
agree
the
with you.
belief of that, and like what you can do, and like the limitations of your mind, like if you're a person that just has like a really big imagination, you're really big dreamer, I value those things higher than money,
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, you just need someone to help you execute. The way that I see things is like, I'm more of like strategic. I'm not like so I'm like, oh, so we need to hire somebody to help this become a reality.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you're making 60K, but I don't see you as I don't see 60K as being like your life.
Sure.
I see 60K as being as your position right now,
Mm-hmm.
because you needed the steady way to build your dream on the side. But if
Yeah.
you got the dream on the side, let's build
Yeah,
that.
okay. Yeah, I love that, man.
Yeah.
Keeper. Keeper. What's something guys get wrong about you?
I don't even know that I want to say that.
Yeah, say it. Whatever that is, you gotta say it now.
Something that guys get wrong about me. I think that men think that, it could be just looks. Especially like social media, and I don't blame them at times, because like my social media can also be quite polished. I mean, and I'm quite polished. Like, don't get me wrong, in a lot of ways, and it's changing now. But like when I was living in LA, you get very much like my social media was like very much kind of like LA lifestyle-y.
Yes.
But I'm so much more than that. Like,
Yeah.
and I care about so many more things. But yeah, quality for sure. But it's like I also am very like athletic. You don't really see that on my page. I'm also very like competitive and quirky and like a lot of other things. So I would say like that's the number one. And when we were talking earlier about like, like if someone's like overly eager at the beginning, so to me it can sometimes be off-putting, where I'm like, oh, okay, this person thinks I'm like they find me attractive at the
Yes.
beginning of it, but when there's too much on it at the beginning, I'm like, but I've got all of these things that you're not even privy to, that like these things matter more.
Sure, yeah.
And so that can be off-putting.
So what does that look like, where you can tell a guy's really taking heavy interest in you because of your polished exterior? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What do you get from him?
It's honestly hard to differentiate at times, especially at the beginning, because I do take pride in like working out and different things. And so it's like, when like let's say you go on a date with someone at the beginning and they notice the little details. I like a man that notices the little details, but it has to be like, I feel like that third, fourth date in, where you're like, oh, okay, there's a balance of, you notice the details, but then you also are engaging and asking questions that are like, you want to know more.
Sure.
And deeper. And also, I'm not gonna lie, since I've been here, I also went on a date, like I think maybe end of last year, beginning of this year, some dates with a guy. And one thing I also enjoyed, which was like, the very first time I met him, he was like, "You're cute," but all the other questions was like, "Okay, yeah, you look good, so let's talk about this." It's like,
Yes.
it just took a lot of the pressure off of it.
Yes.
In like okay, but like, that's why we're here. Like, that's how we connected. But then now,
Yeah.
so I don't mind that. I like a balance of, someone that appreciates the small things, the details, does it for themselves as well.
Yeah.
But then ultimately, like, all of the conversation is like, but let's talk about everything else. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Sure.
I
Because
love
like we're on the
that.
date because we know we're attracted to each other. That's
Yeah,
ticked. We don't need to
tick.
focus on that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
What's one more thing you want to ask? You want to talk about?
One more thing I want to add.
Yeah, we've got time for a couple more actually.
Do. I got a couple. Okay. Let's see.
Go for it. No holds barred.
Okay, I feel like we've kind of touched on that one before slightly, so I'll pivot off of that. Again, just a general question. How do you feel? Do you feel like do you feel like it's possible to move forward with someone after you've started walking on eggshells for a while in a relationship in general? Because I always, and this is not just for me, this is like for all the, like, my girlfriends and things, where like they're like, you know, now I feel like I'm tiptoeing around certain things because it's gonna hurt their, like, you know, and even with guys, it's like, do you think you can walk backwards from that? Do you think that you can ever grow past the part where you're too timid, or someone receives you too timidly in general?
Great question. Can you give me, okay, you talk about walking around eggshells. Can you give me an example? That would really help me navigate that scenario.
I'm trying to give you an example without being too specific.
without baiting yourself out.
Life. But let's say maybe you want to have, I'm just trying to say this without being so specific, because these are,
if you're talking about someone else, you're not going to say their name, so that's fine.
Yeah.
So you can be specific, but no one will know that. They won't know. The only person who will know that is for them.
Okay, let's just say religion, for example. Let's say that you go, like, you're dating someone and you've been talking about religion for a while, and now anytime you talk about church, it's just like an off-put thing to them. Like, they never want to talk about it, they never want to express it, or you know what I mean? And that's something that might be important to you, and they're making maybe their own way, but when you talk about it, let's say it's also with things like therapy, for example. Like, if as a girl you're like, no, I really think that, you know, therapy is important and we should, and now that's become like a touchy subject when you engage with it, and it will forever be that. Do you feel like, see, I'm I'm trying to connect this to the other part, which is like, do you feel like you can walk back from that? Are there ever ways in which you can engage someone on the topics that feel the most sensitive at one point in time, and like, how do you allow for that?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the therapy one, right?
Let's talk about that.
So I think there's a difference between saying that, oh, I think therapy is great because of X, Y, and Z, and then going that we need to start going to therapy, or if we're not doing it, we need to.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between talking about a topic and then trying to, what feels like for them, impose a behavior that they're maybe not naturally inclined to do yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I think that a lot of the time, what can happen is, and it could be completely unintentional, but if it comes across like, okay, you all keep bringing this conversation because you're trying to impose that ideal onto me or that behavior onto me, that's when people can get defensive.
Yeah.
And they're like, hold on, you keep bringing this up and it feels like you're telling me I need to do this. And then the whole question of, okay, well, I didn't do this before, so why do I have to do it now?
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you didn't like me for who I was before, you're saying I need to change, etc. So I think there's a difference between trying to encourage someone to do a behavior that could help and then trying to change them. And I think navigating that line, if we don't approach it in the right way, they could feel like you're trying to change them, and they will always be defensive. So let's say you talk about therapy, and every time you bring it up with him, he's like, I'm tired of talking about it. I don't want to talk about it, right? I guess you'd have to ask yourself the question, why do you want to keep talking about it with him? Because if the question is, because if it's, because you just have genuine curiosity and you like talking about it, something you're passionate about talking about, that's different. So you can be like, hey,
if it's something that might be like important to you, let's say it's important to you, but you're walking on eggshells around it for them, but you brought up that it's important for you multiple times.
So is it important in terms of having the conversation, or is it important that they start going to therapy?
Let's say they start going to therapy.
That's the part that's important?
Let's say that.
Okay, so that's where it feels like you're trying to change them. Right? So, and that's why I'm saying, okay, if the reason you're having the conversation is because you're wanting them to start doing it, the approach just needs to be different.
Yeah.
So instead of being like, hey babe, I think you need to start going to therapy.
Yeah.
It could be like, babe, I've kind of noticed you've kind of struggled with something recently. Is that the case? And you might be like, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, sometimes, I feel like I struggle to have motivation some days and I just feel kind of down about it. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, how do you feel that you bring yourself out of that? and be like, oh, sometimes I bring myself out of it, but other days, sometimes it gets the better of me. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like, I know exactly what that's like. Do not really help me. I started talking to this person. Do you want me to, and this is why I talk to this person. This is what they helped me realize.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know, I think that could really help you. Do you want me to put you in touch? He might be like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, maybe I will. Or he might be like, I'm okay for now. You're like, okay, cool. And you leave it. A month later, right? He might be like, oh, you know that person you said you talked to? I just had a past couple of days. Like, tell me about that. Now you're in.
Yeah, but what if you're already on the eggshells? Like, you already maybe brought it up, and so now they're already off put to it. That's the best case scenario. What if you already on the eggshells?
So but this is what I'm saying. So in the initial conversation, you didn't say anything about therapy. You just said to them, because the thing is, okay, it's kind of like.
But I get that if you're navigating it from the beginning, but let's say you're in the middle of it and you're already on the eggshells.
But that's what I mean. So the eggshells is because you talk about therapy.
Yeah. The
second they hear it, they go, I'm out.
Yeah.
But in this example, I didn't say like, oh, you should go to therapy. It's like, what have you, like, I've noticed you've been struggling with something.
Yeah.
Or like, are you okay? Because I just noticed this about you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's a bit like selling. The way you sell to the customer is not telling them why this product is really good, but it's about seeing what problem they have. And then seeing, okay, you have this problem.
Right.
What have you tried? Then you offer a solution.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, the approach just needs to be different, because a lot of the time it's just if they feel like you're trying to change them. Yeah. Because essentially what they hear is, I'm not good enough.
Yeah, I agree. Do
you know what I mean? Have you ever had that with a guy on you where you feel like he's trying to change you, or he's trying to make you kind of indulge in something, you're like, that's not me? Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's in multiple aspects for me, but I'd say things that I was more stubborn on, that I wouldn't budge on, is just like, before I started acting, I was working in tech, and I was doing that for a long time. And so, when you're in a relationship with someone and they meet you in tech, and then you decide you want to be an actress, it's like
different. Yeah.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
You sure you want to? Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm sure. You sure you want to? So you gotta continue to put your foot down.
Yeah.
In a way in which it's like, not necessarily that person was trying to change me, but there is that like feeling of, because this is not how you met me, can I hold you to the expectations of like where you saw your life with that version of me? If that's the version that you want in your lifestyle and all of that. And so, I think that had a big thing to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, but also sometimes that happens. Like, people evolve and they change over time, and it's just like, we were great for this season in our lives together.
100%.
And so kind of back to your, like, with the eggshells, like, for example, if someone going to therapy is really important, and you're with someone who doesn't do that, then you have to maybe ask yourself, is this the right kind of person? Are we really matched in our values?
I agree.
Because maybe you're not,
Hope you really enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode where that clip is from, then I want you to click right here where you can watch the full episode. And if you're ready to claim your man today, enroll in my program below, and I'll see you there. Wishing you an amazing